Have you ever thought about who the real rebels of the wizarding world are? What if I told you that it's not the Death Eaters or even the Order of the Phoenix? In today's video, you will find out why goblins are the most dangerous and underestimated force in the magical universe. Goblins are an ancient and intelligent race in the world of Harry Potter. In the films, they seem like strict, greedy bankers guarding vaults in Gringotts with an iron grip. Sure, they're grumpy and unwelcoming, but they don't seem like a real threat. Even young wizards manage to outsmart them and sneak into their heavily secured bank. But what if I told you that goblins were never meant to be mere background characters? History remembers them not as passive vault keepers, but as fierce revolutionaries who shook the wizarding world to its core. These small but formidable creatures have launched uprisings, waged wars, and defied magical authorities for centuries. So, hold on to your wallets, because the Goblin Rebellion is about to begin. No one knows exactly when goblins first appeared in the magical world, but one thing is certain. They have been around for over 1,000 years. By the time Hogwarts was founded, goblins had already established a thriving culture and strong ties with wizards. How do we know this? One of Hogwarts' legendary artifacts, the Sword of Gryffindor, was crafted by the Goblin King Ragnak I. The weapon was so magnificent that Ragnak didn't want to part with it. He insisted that Godric Gryffindor had stolen it, leading to one of the first major conflicts between goblins and wizards. Over the centuries, goblins and wizards coexisted, but tension simmered beneath the surface. Wizards never saw goblins as equals. Maybe it was because of their appearance, short, long-fingered, with sharp features. Maybe it was fear of their intelligence and craftsmanship. Either way, goblins found a way to thrive despite discrimination. In 1474, a goblin named Gringotts founded the most powerful financial institution in the magical world, Gringotts Bank. Unlike house elves, who were forced into servitude, goblins carved out a position of power. They controlled the wizarding economy and wielded a unique kind of goblin magic, one that didn't require wands. Goblins aren't just smart and hardworking, they are also fiercely proud and deeply resent injustice, and when they feel wronged, they don't stay silent. Throughout history, goblins have led multiple uprisings against wizardkind. Every time wizards imposed unfair laws or tried to restrict their rights, goblins responded with rebellion. The Ministry of Magic, fearing their power, passed a strict law forbidding non-humans from using wands, but even that wasn't enough to suppress them. One of the earliest revolts was led by none other than Ragnak I. Still enraged over losing Gryffindor's sword, he launched an armed rebellion against the wizarding world. It took the combined force of wizard armies to put it down, but that was just the beginning. Over the centuries, goblins staged at least 7 major revolts. Even during the events of Harry Potter, secret goblin factions were rumored to be working against the Ministry, planning sabotage and uprisings in the shadows. Goblins have always had their leaders, some seeking justice, others revenge. Here are some of the most notorious figures in goblin history. Gurg the Filthy, a 17th century goblin ruler who led a violent rebellion after young wizards humiliated him by dunking him into a lake. What started as a petty insult turned into a full-scale war. Godrod Callous Hand, a goblin assassin responsible for the deaths of multiple wizards. When he was finally captured, his fellow goblins rallied to free him, sparking another uprising. Narlac, a goblin gangster in 1920s America, running an underground bar. A key figure in Fantastic Beasts, he proves that goblins never lost their edge. Bodrig the Crooked, the leader of the Goblin Brotherhood, an organization demanding the right to use wands. His protests escalated into riots, shaking the magical government. So next time you see goblins hunched over their desks at Gringotts, remember, They are not just quiet bankers, they are warriors, rebels, and strategists, always watching, always waiting for their next move. The question is, what happens when they finally strike again? The halls of the Ministry of Magic buzzed with their usual routine. Auras walked past enchanted memos fluttering through the air, clerks scribbled on endless scrolls, and Wizengamot members debated over new laws. Yet beneath the surface, a storm was brewing. One that no one saw coming. One that had been planned for centuries. Deep in the underground tunnels of Gringotts, far from the eyes of wizards, a different kind of magic pulsed through the stone walls. Goblins gathered in secrecy, speaking in hushed voices. Ancient texts lay open before them, detailing something terrifying. The time was near. The last betrayal would not be forgotten. History had not been kind to goblins. The wizards saw them as lesser beings, unworthy of wands, unworthy of trust. But goblins remembered everything, every war, every broken treaty, every time their magic was dismissed as inferior. They knew patience, they had learned to wait. And now, as the wizarding world grew complacent, they were ready. Ragnarok the First was the first to understand wizard greed. He forged Gryffindor's sword, only to have it taken from him. The theft sparked bloodshed, but wizards won. Then came Gurg the Filthy, who led the rebellion of 1612, only to see his people slaughtered in the streets of Hogsmeade, and then Bodrig the Crooked, whose dream of goblin independence ended in chains. The Ministry always crushed them, always silenced them, but not this time. There were whispers of a goblin artifact, hidden deep within the vaults of Gringotts, a relic older than Hogwarts itself. One with the power to undo wizard enchantments. The Ministry of Magic feared such objects, but they had no way of finding them. Goblins never shared their secrets. But what if, after centuries of silence, they were finally ready to use it? Bill Weasley, who had worked alongside goblins for years, had once said, "They're not fond of wizards, but they have their own sense of honor." What he didn't understand was that honor, to goblins, meant never forgetting a slight, never letting a betrayal go unanswered. To them, the Ministry was not a government, it was an enemy that had oppressed them for generations. Griphook had seen the signs before anyone else. He had worked at Gringotts long enough to notice things shifting. Some of the older goblins had vanished, retreating to hidden chambers no wizard could enter. Gold shipments had been quietly rerouted. And then there were the codes, strange symbols carved into vault doors that no one could decipher. When Harry Potter broke into Gringotts, it was seen as another humiliation. A boy and his friends had outwitted goblin security, stolen from Bellatrix Lestrange's vault, and left on the back of a dragon. The Ministry had done nothing, no reparations, no apologies. To the goblins, it was proof that wizards would never respect them. But it also proved something else. The system was flawed. If 3 young wizards could slip through their defenses, what could an army of goblins do? The plan had already begun. The Ministry believed it controlled Gringotts. It didn't. Goblins controlled the wizarding economy, the flow of gold, the movement of magical artifacts. What would happen if one day the doors of Gringotts simply refused to open? What if vaults were sealed permanently, fortunes locked away forever? Wizards relied on goblins for their wealth, but goblins didn't need wizards at all. Perhaps the war had already started, not with battles, but with quiet acts of defiance. A missing ledger here, a lost transaction there, the disappearance of a crucial document, small things unnoticed by those who believed they held power, but